26th President of the United States, Theodore Roosevelt, once said, "Believe you can, and you're halfway there." According to mentalhealth.net, addiction is the repeated involvement with substance or activity, despite the harm it causes. Addiction comes from the word addictive, meaning it is hard to quit. There are many different types of addictions out there someone may suffer from, not just drug or alcohol. However, according to the Center of Addiction, 1 in 7 people over the age of 12 have a drug or alcohol problem, which does not include the other addictions which someone may suffer from. Although there are many different types of addictions out there, living with addiction is harmful no matter what it is. I have been affected by someone else's addiction since I was a child. Both of my parents started their drug use as teens, which has torn my family apart. First, I will go over the most common types of addiction. Second, I will discuss the causing factors that play a role in the start of addictions. And lastly, I will go over the effects that addiction has on oneself and those around them. When most people think of addictions, they presume drugs. However, there are many different types of addictions other than that. Within the category drug addictions, there are also many different types of drugs one may be addicted to. The most commonly addicted drug would be nicotine. According to the Addiction Center, with over 40 million addicts, although nicotine does not seem harmful and dangerous because it is legal, it still does damage to the addict's lungs. The second leading type of drug addiction is marijuana. Also according to the Addiction Center, there are over 4.2 million marijuana users. Lastly but not least, crack cocaine, with over 821,000 users. Although there are not as many people who do cocaine, it is still considered one of the most highly addictive drugs out there, according to drugrehab.us. Following drug addictions, the next most common type of addiction would be alcohol. Alcoholism is the word used to describe the addiction of alcohol, and is the third cause of death because of the lifestyle choices, according to the National Council on Alcoholism. The National Council on Alcoholism also stated that 1 in every 7 adults relies on alcohol to function, and the action of drinking too much is responsible for the loss on average of 88,000 lives a year. Besides drugs and alcohol, there are many more addictions out there. However, another most common one would be gambling. Helpguide.org says that gambling addiction or compulsive gambling is an impulse control disorder. According to Livestrong, up to 6 million Americans are addicted to gambling. Helpguide.org also stated that people who have a gambling problem also suffer from ADHD, anxiety, and/or a bipolar disorder, which they have not yet gotten under control. Now that I've gone over, not all, but some of the most common types of addictions, I'll jump into on how some addictions start. Addictions are caused by many different factors and each differ from person to person. According to the National Institute on Drug Abuse, normally it is not just one risk factor, but many put together which create an addiction. They also stated that genetics make up 40 to 60% of those risk factors in which someone may become an addict. The environment on which one grows up and lives in also has an influence. If someone grows up in a household who is full of alcoholics or drug addicts, they will most likely be prone to follow in those same footsteps. And simply, one's feelings and thoughts are also a factor in drugs. If someone is down in the dumps, and they may look for a way out or a way to cope, and think of ways that they could become happy. Now that I have gone over some ways how a person can become addicted to something, I am now going to explain the effects and consequences of addiction. I think addicts think that their addiction only affects them, but that's not the case. Addiction obviously impacts the person who has the addiction. First, the addiction will start to impact one's health, especially if the addiction involves drugs or alcohol. Their lungs and/or kidneys will start to fail. The addiction then starts to become costly. No matter what the addiction is, drugs, alcohol, shopping, or food, it all costs money. And the addict will eventually do whatever it takes to get what they want. Once the addiction starts to take over the addict's life, as most do, the addict will begin to lose people close to them, such as family or friends, and probably even their jobs. Whether it is a family member or friend, when someone close starts an addiction, you will notice addictions will start changing in the person who has the addiction. It may be in their actions, appearance, or even families. The addict will push people away because of their actions. The addiction may become more important than the addict's loved ones, which will cause relationship problems. I am sure people living with addictions think their problems only affect them, but those who live around an addict can testify that that's not the case. First, I went over 3 of the most common types of addictions. Second, I briefly went over some of the causes that can contribute to the start of an addiction. And finally, I discussed the impact addictions can have on the addict and also those around them. Although there are many different types of addictions out there, living with an addiction is harmful. Thank you.